Good afternoon everyone, welcome to another video. I'm Maz and today I'm in Chipping Sodbury. In today's video I will be reviewing this Mercedes-AMG C43. A quick overview: the C-Class is Mercedes' compact executive saloon. It sits above the A-Class and below the E-Class, and has been around since 1993 with the W202 generation replacing the 190E or the W201. This particular car is a W205. So while we're here, let's talk about the exterior of the car. So this particular car is a W205 C43, but it's also a W205 facelift. So with the facelift, you get the indicators housed into the LEDs. They're actually sat a little bit higher than the pre-facelift's DRLs, since the pre-facelift had its indicators above. Secondly, the twin blade grille that was previously on the C63 has now made its way onto the 43. With the 43 pre-facelift, Mercedes didn't really put much effort in. Here's what pre-facelift looked like. Along with that, they also added in the silver details on the side intakes, and the silver on the bottom is slightly different to what you'd get in a regular model. Coming around to the side, not much different to the standard C-Class, besides the wheels and the brakes, and of course that bi-turbo 4MATIC emblem, distinguishing the fact that it's a twin-turbo with all-wheel drive. Coming around to the side, these higher trimmed models have chrome on their door handles, with entry levels having them fully body coloured. This is a higher trim model, so if I were to tap this indentation, the car would lock, and if I were to put my fingers in here, the car would unlock. And just to show you, the mirrors fold if you lock, and open when you unlock, or unfold when they unlock. Coming around to the side, once again, this particular car has the silver surrounds around the windows and on the front, but you can choose to have them in black as well, part of the Mercedes night pack option. Coming around to the back, not much different to the standard C-Class, besides the lower valance, the quad round tailpipes, and the AMG badge is on the left as opposed to the right. Pre-facelifts didn't really have much going in for them in the C43 form, other than the lip spoiler, which is carried over to this one as well. And you had the trapezoidals from the C220s and the C300s, but with a slight slat in between them. Being the facelift, this car has the slightly updated taillights, so if we look here, the red strip resembles a C. Well, on a C on this side, whereas on the pre-facelifts they'd have 3 bars. The 43 badge is on the right as opposed to the left, as seen on non-AMG Mercs. The reason being is that previously they were known as Mercedes-Benz C-Class. Nowadays they're known as Mercedes-AMG C43. The Benz name has actually been dropped for the AMG models. While we're here at the back, let's open the boot. Also forgot to mention the key fob is different on the facelift as well. With the pre-facelift you actually had a bottleneck design on the top, which Mercedes have been using since 2002. So let's open the boot. And that reveals a massive boot for a saloon. On these higher trim models you can unfold the seats here just by pulling on them. Entry level cars have their seats solid. You got your tie down points here, and if we open this, we got some extra storage space and a collapsible box. I'll show you what this looks like. Unfortunately, I cannot do this with one hand, so I'll quickly show you what it looks like open. And up here you got the warning triangle, mandatory in German markets. You got the red light here to indicate that it's open if left open at night, and you get two red buttons here. One closes the boot, the other closes the boot and locks the car. Alternatively, you can just once again use the key fob. Coming around to the side, I also forgot to mention this car has privacy glass, not available on the entry-level car. This has the slightly smaller wheels, black with silver surrounds, but you can opt for diamond cut if you wish. If you get a diesel version of this car, you'd actually get another opening here for the AdBlue, but this being a petrol, you still get the massive fuel door, but nothing there basically. Opening the rear now. So here it's not as bad as the XC that I previously reviewed. These pillows are actually aftermarket. One thing they definitely do better here is that these openings can help you put a cup or a bottle into these door pockets. These silver window switches are certainly a lot more upmarket. This being the Premium Plus, you get the Burmester sound system with the silver tweeters, and the door handle is nice and light, and you get red stitching on this C43. This particular C43 has the burnt ash wood. Mercedes refer to this as open pore. I much prefer this than the glossy lacquered wood you got from Mercs from the 90s. Looking inside, you got Isofix points which go in like that, and then to cover them you just push on the top. This has the center armrest, so a very small cubby inside, and cup holders. This one's being a bit funny, but that's what it looks like. Finally out, again same story. And since I pulled on those tabs, here's what the seats look like folded. There's barely a ridge to get over, it's almost flush, and there's only a slight incline on the seats. Luckily there's some space for the seat belts to stay in place, and luckily they're red on this 43 model, though in some 63s you can opt for yellow. That's better. Looking here, unlike the nets you get in a Jaguar or basically any other car, this Mercedes uses airplane style seat back foldable cubbies, which I find are much more upmarket. Those rear center vents look like eyes, and then if you open that, 12-volt socket, two USBs, and probably one of the worst plastics in this car. And because this is a 43, this has AMG specific mats. Coming to the business end of the car now. Immediately you're greeted by this illuminated kick plate. You can't really tell in the daylight, but at night they do show very well. Here's another boot releaser if I press that. Or is it the other way? There we go. There's the boot opening, and to close it you just push down, and there it goes. I think I have to press and hold. There we go. This being an AMG, you got the alloy pedals. Again, the AMG mats, as mentioned from earlier. And because this is the Premium Plus, you get seat controls on the door. And of course, there's that burnt ash wood, the Burmester sound system, the red stitching, some really nice leather, and heated front seats. This blank switch is where the cooled seats would have been. Before we talk more about the interior, let's pop the bonnet, which is this red lever here on the driver's footwell. Coming to the front, this front badge you can actually change to either a different color badge or even a bonnet ornament as seen on the S-Class. To do that you just pull on these two tabs and it will pop right open. So yes, the engine. This is a 3-litre V6 carried over from the pre-facelift C43, but unlike the C43, this has 390 horses as opposed to the pre-facelift's 365. This is a little bit controversial because this is the first AMG branded car to not come with a handmade engine. Normally in an AMG Mercedes you get a plaque somewhere to say who built your engine, but this one is actually mass produced. And even though this is a 2019 car, a late 2019 car, it still uses a V engine. Some of the newer Mercs now use straight 6s instead. And while we're here, let's talk about the other engines available. You've got the 2-litre 4-cylinder in the C220 and the C250D diesels, which were originally 2.1 on the pre-facelifts. You also got the 2-litre petrol in the C300. You've got the 3-litre in this, the C43, and the 4-litre bi-turbo V8 coded the M177 in the C63 of this generation. I may have missed a few engines, but they do vary from market to market. So let's put this back down and go back inside. Now coming inside, the immediate thing that greets you is this introduction screen, which shows you the front of the car flashing its lights at you. This digital screen is actually facelift specific. On the pre-facelift you get 2 analog dials with a small screen in the middle, and the center screen is actually not as wide and not as narrow. It's taller and not as wide, similar to the proportions of an iPad. And down here you've got the 3 round vents as seen on the pre-facelift. It's a shame that they did not put the turbines you get on the E-Class and the CLA. And this 43 model has the leather performance steering wheel, perforations on the side, red 12 o'clock marker on the top, AMG badge down here, and flat bottomed. So in the back you had 4 cup holders. In the front you also have 4 cup holders, bringing it a total of 8 cup holders in this 5-seater car. So there's one there with a bottle, there's 2 in the middle, and there's 1 on the other side. With these cup holders you can choose to have them removed. If I get these out and pull this, it completely comes out, and you can just use this as storage. While we're here, a neat quirk is this Mercedes symbol. So if your battery dies, you just simply leave your key here and then press the start button. Carrying along, in the pre-facelift this would have been a 12-volt socket, but on the facelift they swapped this to a USB. In here is a place to wirelessly charge your phone. This upper spec model has the clock in the middle. Some base models will have this disregarded, and because there's burnt ashwood on the doors, there's also burnt ashwood on here. Now some models unfortunately come with the black piano all over here, which I think ruins the entirety of the interior. This particular car also has a decent sized glove box. If we open that, there we go. Because the glove box is clamshell, this part of the glove box can get in the way of the opening, but that being said, it's great that there's a decent size here. Coming along to the center console, you got the rotary dial, which was from the pre-facelift. Some of the newer models have moved into touchpad or have nothing here at all. Being an AMG, you've got the exhaust button here and the dampers here. And one quirk is that they did not swap this over for right-hand drive, so it just seems odd that they left it here when they could have moved it here, since they both mirror each other. Even the bezels for each dial is the same shape. Same with the shortcut buttons being here. A bit of a reach for right-hand drive. Looking up on the dashboard, you got the climate control vents with these rocker switches, which I much prefer. Sometimes having too many dials can get a bit boring, can get a bit repetitive, can look a bit cliche, but in this I think the knurled are a nice contrast, and they're still easy to use. They're not confusing like going onto a screen and not feeling it. Looking up now, you got somewhere to store your sunglasses. Armani's in this case here. Close this now. This particular car has the panoramic sunroof, which extends to the back, unlike a Jaguar XE. Here's the sun visor. A shame that they didn't bother wrapping the sun visor in this material like Jaguar do. Here's the mirror, and of course the light illuminates. Now looking over here, once again, massive opening for the center console. This is probably the best way to implement in-car storage whilst not getting in the way of anything else. I know some car manufacturers just give you an armrest and no storage underneath, or they give you storage in very inconvenient places. There's no gear selector here. Instead, it's here on the column, which I much prefer considering this car is only an automatic. It takes up less space. It's much easier to use when on the move, so when you turn the wheel you can just do that and all that. Ideal on 3-point turns. These things are only available as automatics. You can get manuals on the base models. The 43 comes in automatic as standard, and these metal paddles do feel very nice, and they move with the steering wheel. One very tiny change made on this facelift model is that if we look behind the steering wheel, there's the start button. On the pre-facelift this would have been all silver, similar to this, but in this one it illuminates, and press that, it'll turn the ignition on. There's the 3-pointed star, there's the AMG badge, there's the flashing lights again, and here are the dials. So this is set to sport. Oh yes, so this one controls this screen, this controls that. So if I go to classic, this is what it would look like on most Mercs. This is the one I had it on earlier, and this is the Super Sport. And of course you got the massive AMG badge below the rev counter. You can also use this to scroll various submenus, so basically a secondary one of these. There's even a lap timer if you want to take your C43 to Castle Combe. And of course you can choose what you want on here as well. There's the map. There's the range. There's the eco display on a C43. Trip. And another trip. Mileage. And that's a G meter. Another quirk about this car is, so here I am sat. So you can see the center of me is here. But if we look at the steering wheel, it's not directly in front of me. That's a very common quirk on right-hand drive Mercedes-Benzes. By contrast, if you sat in an XE, the steering wheel would be smack bang in front of you. One thing I should mention is that this particular car has ambient lighting. This was not available on pre-facelift, so if you want mood lighting in your car, you'll have to get a facelift at least. They're also here on the center console, currently set on purple, but if we go on here and go on options, it should be somewhere here. Actually, go to home first. That's the home screen. There's navigation, radio, media, telephone, in-car office, Mercedes Me Connect, vehicle and system. You can choose up to 64 different ambient lighting colors. One last thing I want to mention is that this particular car has some extra bolsters, being the C43. Normally these are referred to as the comfort seats on the C63. However, I'm not sure if this is available on the 43, but on the 63 you can get something called performance seats, which have the headrests integrated and have tiny cutouts for racing harnesses if you so wish to add them. While it looks like it's got all leather here, so there's leather on the dash, leather on the door tops, leather steering wheel, leather on the door, leather on the center console, there is a tiny bit of fake suede here, which I think helps break up the all leather interior just a little bit. And of course, unlike a BMW, the thigh support bolster is electric and not manual. But of course, just like a BMW, it's a place where dirt gets trapped in. So let's put that back to where it was. Okay, so that's the exterior and the interior of the C43 and the C-Class in general talked about now. So let's start the car and drive. And of course, this car has the exhaust button, so to do that you just press this button, open the window a bit, and then for a V6 this doesn't sound too bad. So let's put that back off and then make a move on. So for drive you just do this. And one thing I want to make a mention, the rear camera is standard, which is very useful for this car park that I'm in. Very easy to maneuver. Steering is a lot lighter in normal driving, so it's great for cities. Can be a bit inconvenient if you're tracking, so you don't really get much feel of the road. That was a speed bump, so it copes well with this. It seems to smoothen out the rough parts very well. Here's another one. Slight bounce on the rear, but on the front it's really, really good. Here comes another one. I'm just currently leaving a 10 mile an hour car park. While we're here in this car park, let's do a quick 3-point turn. Reverse. So here's why I like column mounted automatics. You just turn around and then select the gear you need, like this. There we go. And off we go. If this were to be a center mounted selector, I would be going back and forth like this, as seen on the 3 Series and on the XE. But that being said, both cars do come in manual, and with their manuals I prefer it down here, which Mercedes do them on their base model C-Classes, which again is down here, but then they completely redo the center console area, and they didn't really bother moving the cup holders over and the touchpad for right-hand drive models. So we're still in a suburb in Chipping Sodbury. The car is nice and quiet in here. Hard to believe it's a C43. And I forgot to mention, the C43 name was previously used on the W202, but that was a full-fat AMG with the hand-built engine. Coming to a roundabout now, so let's go right towards the high street. Being a four-door saloon with a B-pillar, visibility around the right shoulder is a bit limited, but that's the nature of having a car with a B-pillar. We're still in the 20 zone, it's a bit busy here, but I feel nice and cocooned in this car. Here comes another speed bump. Nice and smooth. What's interesting is that the tick for the indicator is very, very quiet. If someone were to play their music, which I personally don't, that would easily be drowned out. And I always see people every now and then leaving their indicators on after they've done their turn. And since the gear selector is here, where do they put the wipers? It's basically just a twist on here. So off, intermittent, another intermittent, on times 2. Again, it may be a bit confusing for first-time Mercedes drivers, or at least first time new Mercedes drivers, but once you get the hang of it, you'll definitely prefer this system. Oh, here's another thing. If you put your foot all the way down, you get something called hold. So both my feet are off the brake pedal. The car is in drive, but it's not moving. So it's easy to rest your foot. Now the light is green, so to carry on you just tap. Ideal for these night drives where the brake lights aren't glaring the driver behind you. Let's see how it performs in these larger roundabouts. So rush hour traffic in Yate, everyone's coming this way. I haven't really got an open window to yield in, and now I do, so floor it. Certainly picks up very well, and thanks to the 4MATIC system, the car did not spin its rear wheels, unlike a C43 potentially. One thing I need to point out, when I'm in stop-start traffic and I put my foot on the accelerator, it does go a bit funny at slow speeds. It does pull a bit too much. So here we are back on the 4174. Oh, it's one of those ones. And I'm right in the middle of traffic. Okay, so back on a 70, so... and there's a 70. Very dramatic pickup from 30 to 70. And of course we are on a dual carriageway national speed limit. The 4174 is probably one of my favourite roads here in the South Gloucestershire area. And this car definitely impresses me. So we're currently heading towards Kingswood. We're just approaching the Emerson's Green retail centre roundabout. I'll probably do 2 more roundabouts and then I'll head back. There we go, see, that's why acceleration isn't very smooth on the stop-start speeds. So here we are, coming back to the U-turn and back into the national speed limit, and proof this car can be fun with an automatic. Gotta do that one more time. Traffic lights on green. Another green light. Green light. And lane 2 is empty, and go. This car passes the fun factor and the faster roads factor with flying colours. So if you are considering a C63, consider a C43, because this is easily enough power for most people. Roads cleared up. Even in comfort mode it does pick up very well, and it's still enjoyable on these types of roads, albeit in a different way. And if you want to try the other way, you just put it into Sport Plus, put the exhaust on, and then floor it. Obviously within the speed limit, and the sun's in my eyes. So let's pull up somewhere and wrap up this video. One odd quirk, I put the car into park, and then when I open the door, it doesn't automatically switch off like on Jaguars. So for that, you'll have to remember to press the start button and then exit the car. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching me review this Mercedes-AMG C43. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you are new, ring the bell to stay up to speed, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.